Welcome to The Know, I'm Mica.
I'm Ben.
After months of talking about loot boxes, lawmakers in the US have introduced legislation that would severely limit the sale of loot boxes in just one state.
All right, which state is it? Yes, Hawaii is looking into the legality of some microtransactions and whether or not they qualify as gambling.
Yikes.
Oh crap, party's busted, mom and dad are coming home from vacation early, everybody scatter.
Lawmakers in Hawaii have introduced multiple pieces of legislation regarding loot boxes, and one of those would ban the sale of games with loot boxes to people under 21, which, if passes, could set a precedent for not only the US, but around the world, and could fundamentally change the business model of how AAA games are made and sold and ripped to people under 21.
Say it ain't so, loot boxes, no. This is the latest instance in what's become a wave of countries investigating whether or not loot boxes should be classified as gambling. Countries including Sweden, Belgium, the Netherlands, the UK, and Germany are either looking into similar aspects of loot boxes or they're at least talking about it.
And needless to say, this could have a huge impact on a lot of AAA games if loot boxes start to get banned or restricted to younger games.
Okay, so let's get into the background first. It's no secret that gamers don't like loot boxes, and now it looks like those complaints are being heard in the halls of government around the world. You might remember a state representative in Hawaii, Chris Lee, whose previous statements raising concerns about loot boxes were some of the first from a US lawmaker.
Well, now the Hawaii Tribune-Herald reports that various bills have been filed in state government, one of which would prohibit the sale of any game where players can purchase a random reward using real money, aka loot boxes, to anyone younger than 21 years old. So if you're from Hawaii and want to play competitive Overwatch, suck.
You're gonna be those default skins, baby. So if this passes, gamers might have to show ID to buy a game like Battlefront 2, or get their parents to get it for them, and that would definitely impact sales, which is something no publisher wants.
The other bill would require publishers to prominently label games containing randomized purchase systems like loot boxes. Oh, and they'd also have to disclose the probability rates of rewards from loot boxes, which is similar to laws that we've seen recently implemented in China.
While that's obviously not as bad as outright banning sales, it's definitely a move to force companies to reveal more about how they sell in-game items to players. We've seen China already implement a similar law.
Like we said, this effort has been led by Lee, who has previously raised concerns about loot boxes and whether games that include them should be sold to kids.
I mean, we already have phone games, we got loot boxes, just like lump them all together.
Right?
It's important to note that Lee is a state legislator in Hawaii, so if these bills pass, they would only affect that state, not the US as a whole.
Right.
But it's clear that he and others are hoping that these laws get copied and passed elsewhere too, not just in the US, but worldwide.
Which would be a nightmarish scenario for publishers like EA and Activision, who make billions a year from microtransactions alone.
Lee told the Hawaii Tribune-Herald, "I grew up playing games my whole life. I've watched firsthand the evolution of the industry from one that seeks to create new things to one that's begun to exploit people, especially children, to maximize profit."
He also said that he's worked with lawmakers both in the US and around the world to draft a response to loot boxes. He said that more than half of US states are now pursuing some form of loot box oversight legislation.
Lee said if enough of the market reacts, the industry would have to respond and change its practices.
So this could be a part of a much larger push around the world to crack down on loot boxes, but still, not all countries are on board with the move. Last year, a government regulator in New Zealand said that loot boxes do not meet the definition of gambling.
Trish Millward of the Gambling Compliance Office for New Zealand's Department of Internal Affairs told Gamasutra that while the payment of money for a loot box with the contents of which are determined by chance may appear to be gambling, the department is of the view that loot boxes do not meet the legal definition of gambling.
Millward added that gamers do not purchase loot boxes seeking to win money or something that can be converted into money.
And the ESA, maybe not surprisingly, has also sided with EA and other big publishers in saying that loot boxes aren't the same as gambling.
In a statement to Glixel last year, the ESA said, "Loot boxes are a voluntary feature in certain video games that provide players with another way to obtain virtual items that can be used to enhance their in-game experiences. They are not gambling."
Of course, gamers have already hated loot boxes for a while now, but this controversy over loot boxes really heated up last year thanks to one game, Battlefront 2.
The game's use of loot boxes felt excessive to a lot of people and sparked a huge backlash. It got so bad that EA as a company lost $3 billion in valuation during the controversy. In response, EA temporarily removed loot boxes from Battlefront 2, but since then they've said that they will return at some point this year.
But despite the negative publicity over its loot boxes, Battlefront 2 is still really popular.
Yeah.
Sony says that it was the most downloaded game on the PlayStation Store in December in Europe, and it was the third most popular game for the month in the US. Oh, and EA's stock price hit a record high recently, so don't worry about them, they're doing just fine. Anthem will definitely not have loot boxes.
Oh god, so while gamers say they hate loot boxes, the fact is that they make a shit load of money. Activision Blizzard said recently that they made $4 billion with a B from in-game transactions in 2017. Meanwhile, EA's in-game microtransaction revenue has totaled around $2 billion, again with a B, for the year.
So Yeah, it's pretty clear at this point that microtransactions aren't going away anytime soon. They make a ton of money.
Yeah.
But Lee pointed to the size of the video game industry and said that some oversight into their practices are needed. He added that whistleblowers have revealed that psychologists are employed to create these mechanisms.
And as we've seen with some patents that game publishers have filed in the past, they can get pretty sneaky in how they try to sell you stuff. Some have algorithms that observe your behavior, and others pair you up with high-skill players then trying to sell you whatever shiny weapon they're using, or they just make cuter PNGs of cute anime girls and then I want them.
Yep.
That's my problem.
Yeah. Lee said, gaming is a $30 billion industry. It's bigger than Hollywood. It's an industry that can reach into everyone's pockets and phones and consoles and PCs, but there's no authority to force them to disclose their practices. So, I mean, basically, like, if it has a screen and it gets some kind of, like, feed to yourself, you're probably being hooked right now.
Yeah, fair. We'll see what happens, but for now, there's definitely a trend of lawmakers who say that something needs to change when it comes to loot boxes.
What do you think of Hawaii introducing legislation to possibly ban loot boxes to younger gamers? Let us know in the comments.
And for all of your video game news, even if they include loot boxes, but our videos won't, we promise, no microtransactions in our videos. Be sure to like this video, and if you're new around here, subscribe to the know for no extra fee. And
While that's obviously not, while that's obviously not as bad. Has bad. One of those, more of those words added to the dictionary.
Right?
It's important to note that Lee is a state legislator in Hawaii, so if these bills pass, that would only affect the state.